What about the astronauts? I'm going to give you two incidents that NASA knows damn well happened, but of course they couldn't talk about this because it's history. James McDivitt on the Gemini 4 flight in 1965 reported observing a cylindrical shaped object with an arm sticking out of it. Okay, does that sound like anything we've heard of before? Maybe even a tic tac? He said he saw this unidentified object while in Earth orbit. He even managed to capture it on film. Okay. And when NASA examined the photos, they said, well, it probably was your Titan II second stage that you were just seeing. McDivitt said that was not the case. Then also, Gordon Cooper, who was on the Mercury flight, the Mercury Atlas 9 flight in 1963, reported seeing a greenish object approaching his capsule. He reported it, and you'll like this, Ross, he reported it to a tracking station in Australia, where they also picked it up on radar. And then before becoming an astronaut, Cooper claimed to have encountered a UFO at Edwards Air Force Base in 1957. He actually said he saw the landed craft on the dry lake bed. He had his own camera crew film it, and the film was handed over to authorities. And according to Cooper, he never saw it again. So my question is, if he never saw it again, why doesn't NASA go get that? Why doesn't the Defense Department start releasing some of these films and photos and videos that have been taken? So I'm just getting fed up. You know, NASA has been dismissed as never a straight answer. And I have to say, there are moments when I think that that's not so wrong.
Okay, I'm completely on board with what you're saying there, Bryce. And I think the simple problem that we have is that NASA has lost sight of who's paying the bills. And they don't understand that if we are talking about an organization that is devoted to the exploration of space and the discovery, hopefully, of intelligent life, which I would assume is one of the purposes of NASA, why the hell are they being so disingenuous about what they have in their archives? We all know that NASA's own astronauts, another one that comes to mind is Corey Musgrave, who's basically talked about seeing snake worm-like objects moving around his craft when he was in orbit. And yet NASA has the gall on page 18 of this report that it published to say, it is clear to the panel that establishing a more robust and systematic framework and data repository for UAP reporting is essential. This particularly applies to civilian reporting of UAP. And then it goes into the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. That was a duck pass. That was NASA trying to divert from its own massive archive. Edgar Mitchell told my source, the spaceman, who I wrote about in my book In Plain Sight, that he saw anomalous objects during the landing of Apollo 14 on the moon, and that he believed that he was followed out and back by objects in space. And indeed, in the book that I wrote, he basically described photographs that were taken that showed blue lights in orbit. And I found those blue lights with his friend, the spaceman, on some of the NASA photographs. I've tried to find out more about it. Nobody responds. NASA is, I think, being a lying, disingenuous, disreputable organization in the way it's conducting itself with the public. And frankly, I'm not an American, but if I was paying the bills for a space agency like NASA, I'd be asking for my money back.
Yeah.
Because they are, I mean, if it's true, as David Grush alleges, that the United States is in possession of retrieved non-human technology, if it's true that NASA, a purported scientific organization, is behind the cover-up, I'm not suggesting that everybody in there knows, but I know a lot do. And unless there are very, very good reasons for a scientific organization devoted to discovery and exploration to be party to a grubby, criminal, illegal cover-up, there's going to be some heads rolling.
Yeah. You know, I'm just about ready to stop spanking NASA, but I just have one other thing because you brought it up. On the book that I wrote with Richard Dolan, Edgar Mitchell was nice enough to give us a blurb. And what Mitchell said at the time regarding NASA, he said that on the way there and back, that his flight and other flights were, I believe the phrase he used, were accompanied. by something.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't know that Edgar Mitchell's probably the bravest astronaut that ever served, because he's the guy that piloted Apollo 14, which came right after Apollo 13 never almost killed everybody on board. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to Edgar Mitchell. So yeah, NASA can, but you know what?